No matter what side you're on regarding the letter sent by the Department of Justice and the Department of Education directing all public schools in the United States to allow students to use the bathroom matching their gender identity, no matter what side you're on, please give me 12 minutes of your time. I want to offer you a perspective that I hope will be helpful to you as you try to process the thoughts and the emotions, positive or negative, that go along with such a monumental shift in our culture. While I am a Christian with a biblical worldview, I am not going to talk about morality. I am going to address a different issue. I want to talk about how those of us who have any authority or influence over other people deal with the pain and suffering we see on a daily basis. Parents, pastors, teachers, public officials, administrators, authors, business owners, and any of us who have authority or influence over other people daily face a most difficult reality. The people in our sphere of influence are negatively impacted by private struggles. Those struggles may be short-term, such as an acute health condition or a divorce or a financial setback. And those struggles may be long-term, such as a chronic health condition or an identity struggle or a destructive addiction. Now, God has not given us as leaders a blanket authorization to involve ourselves in the private struggles of the people under our influence. That's normally His job. But there are two apparent exceptions. When those people reach out to us for help, or when their private struggles become a public nuisance. The first one is easy. What leader who genuinely cares about people won't try to help someone when invited? It's just a natural response to try to help anyone that reaches out to us in his or her pain. And while our help may or may not be ultimately helpful, the desire to help is natural and appropriate. But it's not so easy to involve ourselves in the private struggles of those under our influence when their private struggles become a public nuisance. That is to say, when their struggles spill out of what's just personal and begin to negatively impact the lives of others. And most of the time, those folks whose private struggles have become public nuisance will not see their condition as a personal problem to be solved. And it is this situation which I want to address. Please consider 4 illustrations of private struggles that have the potential to negatively impact other people. While the individuals in these examples are not real, their perceived conditions are very real. A 13-year-old girl, for whatever reason, feels convinced that she is not smart enough to take algebra and wants her school to accommodate her condition by allowing her to graduate from high school without completing any advanced math courses. A 15-year-old boy, for whatever reason, feels threatened in the boys' locker room because he identifies as a girl and wants his school to accommodate his condition by allowing him to use the girls' locker room. A 30-year-old woman, for whatever reason, feels compelled to drive her sports car at top speed on the interstate during those hours when traffic is light, and wants the local highway patrol unit to accommodate her condition by allowing her to ignore the speed limit. A 40-year-old man, for whatever reason, feels sexually addicted to taking pictures of women with a covert shoe camera and wants public officials to accommodate his condition by allowing him to identify as a woman so he can use female bathroom facilities. Now, are these examples of requests for accommodation absurd? Some of you will think so. Others of you will not. 25 years ago, no one in a leadership position would publicly suggest accommodating any of these requests. But what about now? And what about 25 years from now? Will all of these conditions be accommodated in 25 years? On any given day, you could find a child somewhere in the United States who doesn't feel smart enough to ever get through advanced high school math courses. On any given day, you could find a child somewhere in the United States who doesn't feel like he or she could ever live with the sexuality he or she was born with. On any given day, you could find an adult somewhere in the United States so hooked on an adrenaline rush that he or she feels it impossible possible to drive within the speed limit. On any given day, you could find an adult somewhere in the United States who feels absolutely helpless in resisting his or her sexual addiction. In considering just these 4 examples, as a leader, how do you decide which of these conditions you should consider as normal conditions to accommodate, and which of these conditions you should consider as problem conditions to be solved? Well, as for me, when I see pain and suffering, I always see a problem to be solved, and a problem that can be solved. And when there's no human solution, there is a God solution. Of course, as I make such a statement, I can feel the onslaught of exceptions coming at me, all those private struggles, all those underlying conditions over which people seemingly have no control. But all of these exceptions that may be coming to your mind, are they reality or are they false perceptions? What happens to a nation when its voice of compassion changes from your pain and suffering is caused by a problem, let's work together to fix it, to a voice that says instead, you don't really have a problem, let's just work together to medicate your pain and suffering? It is not compassion to medicate the pain and suffering of another person only to leave the underlying condition undisturbed. That's not compassion. That is cowardice. As a nation, we are becoming increasingly less willing to confront the conditions underlying the pain and suffering of others. Instead, we have devoted our resources to the alleviation of the pain itself, while the conditions underlying the pain continue to decimate the quality of life. We are moving away from seeing these conditions as problems to be solved. Instead, the underlying conditions which cause pain and suffering are no longer considered as problems to be solved, but as unchangeable realities to be accommodated. As leaders, we have been browbeaten by the culture into believing that the pain and suffering of those under our influence does not come from the underlying conditions, but from our failure to accommodate those conditions. As a leader, even if just the leader of your family, please don't refuse to confront the conditions underlying the pain and suffering of those under your influence. Please don't call it compassion to instead medicate their pain and accommodate their conditions. That is not compassion. That is fear. Yes, it is scary to confront private struggles that have become public nuisances. There will be blowback. But how scary is it if you don't? Take a look around your community. Look at the people whose private struggles have gone public and have been accommodated instead of confronted. You will not see victory. You will see defeat. You will not see freedom. You will see imprisonment. Jesus said, as recorded in John 10:10, "The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly." So if something, anything, is going on in the lives of those under your authority or influence that is robbing them of an abundant life, it is not a condition to be accommodated. It is a problem to be solved. I fully realize that this is a radical departure from the victim mentality that permeates our culture, but it is truth nonetheless. We must put a stop to this insanity and begin to see anything, and I mean anything, that is robbing people of an abundant life as a problem, and we must treat it as a problem. We must become leaders who help those under our influence become conquerors and overthrow those conditions underlying their pain and suffering, rather than abdicate control of their lives to those destructive conditions. Individual solutions may be beyond the scope of human resources. The situation may require a direct intervention by God. And if divine intervention is not your thing, then go as far as you can with your human resources. At least those under your influence will still be much better off than if you do nothing but accommodate. But I have seen God fix enough things in my life and in the lives of others that I'm convinced He can fix any problem. Thank you for listening today. And please, please, do not allow this twisted culture to rob those under your influence of their God-given potential.